Elon Trump wants to know what happens if he never files his taxes. What's going to happen to him? I mean, I can't tell you for sure, Elon Trump, without knowing your situation specifically, but I can kind of give some general information. Elon, let me say this, because a lot of folks are not straightforward about this. Elon, if you, well, let's say you never made any money. Well, then you don't have a filing requirement. Nothing's going to happen to you. But now let's say you make money, okay? And if you make money under the table, right? No 1099 issued, no W-2 issued. With current technology, the IRS is going to have a hard time catching up to you. And you know, you may stay under the radar with them. I'm not saying you should. It is the law for you to report all of your income, insofar as it's taxable, on your tax return to the IRS and pay any relevant tax due. That is the law, whether or not that income is reported on a tax document. But if you're in a situation where you're earning income and there's no associated tax document, then you know, you may very well stay under the table. So maybe nothing will happen. Now, what if, and this is the more, you know, common scenario people are in, what if you earn income and whoever you're working for, they're doing things right? If you're an employee, then your employer is withholding payroll taxes, Social Security, Medicare, all those things, issuing you a W-2 at the end of the year, after the end of the year, right? Or if you're an independent contractor, they're issuing you a 1099, right? Well, in that case, depending how much you make, if you're making like 10 grand a year, IRS isn't going after you, right? If you're making more, then the IRS may prepare what's called a substitute for return, or an SFR. This is basically the IRS looking at all your 1099s and W-2s and other tax documents you got, indicating how much income you received during the year. And they'll basically do their own tax return. And they're not going to give you any deductions other than the standard deduction. Not going to give you any credits. Not going to give you a favorable filing status. In most cases, it results in an overstatement of your liability. But that's what could happen, Elon, if you never ever file. And then what happens after that? Well, the IRS can assess the tax liability based on this SFR and then take collections action against you. Bank levies, wage garnishments, going after your Social Security or other government benefits, nasty stuff like that. Of course, there's other repercussions in not filing your taxes that go beyond merely the IRS. For example, if you're self-employed, 1099, and you never report that income on a tax return on a Schedule C, well, then you'll never pay into Social Security, in which case you would not be eligible, other than perhaps through a spouse or as a survivor, but not in your own stead, to receive those benefits. If you're going for a loan, trying to buy a home, and you don't have the cash to pay for it and you get a mortgage lender's probably going to want to see tax returns. Not always. There's lenders out there who will use bank statements, but you know, typically they want to see tax returns. You know, so there is other consequences to not filing your taxes that go beyond mere IRS enforcement action. I actually created a whole video about what happens if you don't file your taxes. And that video is on the left-hand side of your screen right now. You may want to take a little peek at that video, Elon, because I go more in depth in that video about, you know, that said, I think 8 or 9 consequences of not filing your taxes. Anyway, Elon, thanks for the question. If you have unfiled tax returns, give us a call, 866-8000-TAX, 866-8000-829, and we are Choice Tax Relief. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.